Hello, good morning. This is awkward because I didn't make a plan for vlog again. So first of all, I want to do a little catch up with you guys, but I also need to do a book wrap up. I realized that before New Year's and holiday cheer and whatever, we might not be able to do the book wrap up, and I'm way overdue one. I thought it would be best to just have a clean slate in the new year. So this is gonna be a mix of couple of things in this vlog, and the book wrap up will be left to the end. So stay with me if you wanna hear anything about books, but otherwise, thank you for coming. My partner gifted me really to have a Libra. And I just wanted to share it because I think it's only for 2 weeks really experience, so I don't think it will be included in any other vlogs. So Libra usually is used for diabetes really, and we came across it when I gifted my partner Zoe bundle last year. But I was very curious when he was going through that process because we have very different like hunger patterns, and I just get randomly hungry, and I told him like I bet I have a lot of hypos. And it did turn out that I do have moments whenever I'm really hungry that my sugar drops suddenly. So yeah, so I did learn something about myself. Otherwise, I spent time drawing and wanted to share that. This drawing particularly improved when I introduced neon green to it. The color popped out. Also wanted to share that just a few days ago, recently we went to Chelmsford and met one of my friends that we worked in a hospital days long ago, very randomly becoming an independent seller. So they now sell like earrings, I think candles as well, because they gave me a leaflet um, in terms of candles and websites. But we also sell under Etsy, and I'm gonna share that. But honestly, that is so nice to support someone you know, and yeah, and I think it's nice for the season. So second part, we also went to the bookshop, and all of that together gave me such a good feels. Like I can't even describe it. And the second part, when I came to the bookstore, even though I go to bookstores so regularly, I felt such a like joy and like emotional really, that I'm like I really love books honestly, and there's so many of them on the shelves and so many people happily picking books, and it just was giving me such a rush, which I haven't had for like a while. We didn't buy too many because we're trying to be more considerate now. I really was over shopping with books before way too much, and I'm trying to be more considerate, get more books onto my reader rather than physical. But it's nice to have a physical book for travel, so we picked a couple of them, and one of them is Lovecraft retelling and a manga, Call of Cthulhu, which I'm a big fan of the Lovecraft world. but I never really gone into the classics. So I like whatever people do with that world, including games, really. Now, I also picked up Orbital because I saw Christiane Jones, I believe, read it on her last vlog, and I kind of was like, okay, it's very thin, it's easy to travel, and the person in the bookshop was like, this is really good book, and that also gives me a dopamine hit when I go to bookstores, and whenever, for example, I check out and people tell that I pick up good books, also really great feeling. But mostly that was that emotional part of like just looking at all the books that I love on the shelves. Yeah, I didn't film any of that, but I really wanted to share. And then I gone back into drawing and painting, and this one particularly was sort of based on the story that is brewing in my head. This is also me using masking fluid, which I technically generally don't use. So I was very interested to finally give it a go. It's been on my shelves for so long, I was thinking that it's going to get expired. Premise of a story brewing in my head is really sad. It is about it starts with making wishes and this abandoned well. Uh, Basically, the suggestion is if the wishes don't come true, stop making wishes and just focus on more reasonable goals. So that's sort of opening of it, but then it ends up being an adventure of his inside as well that opens up. And also the main sort of core idea of like, if you really that unlucky and you never have your wishes come true, how do you overcome it? How you continue going, really? I think I would like to write it, but also I don't know if I can take on another story. Invent as well becomes sort of an entry to another world. Once again, it's very Ghibli-esque in that sort of crossover between real and what's fantastical. And I think the story, if I did write, is going to be similarly Ghibli-esque as well. This day, I was absolutely on fire with doing arts, and specifically what was in my mind when I was doing the first sort of scenery from the bird's view. It's Zelda. It's that sort of Korok hidden, slightly off things that you know there's gonna be a Korok in there or something like that. So like it kind of goes cozy images of green grass, but just a lone tree or just like a lone leaf in the pond. So now I've gone to do a seaside one, and I wanted to do something a little bit off and unnatural, but at the same time kind of a cozy shore. I don't know why, but I really wanted to do that, and it just felt so cozy to do these sort of images. And also, this one was super fast. This one took me just like few moments, so I was really on fire that day. But basically, I did this, which is just birds. My partner didn't understand. So it's a bird's view, right? Of like, my idea was wishing well. So like just do a little well and a little pond and just like bird's view, because I really like RPG games and that sort of map picture and whatnot. So I also was thinking about Zelda a lot, like Tears of Kingdom and so on, Breath of the Wild, because I really like how they hide Koroks in very obvious places where you can like literally say it's not natural, but it's still very cozy. This is like my favorite moment of recognizing something is not natural. So specifically put only like one leaf in the pond and whatnot. for that sort of sense. Why I'm showing this, I want to try to make, I really need a desk mat, and I just ordered this to be printed as a desk mat, which kind of went through, it was a bit rushed, so edges are not so clear and clean, because when I was editing it on the app, I was like, I really want to get it done, but then like sizing is weird and whatnot. So I don't know if it's gonna be nice or not, but it's definitely the vibes that I would be happy with, like that green and cozy mat. But in that sense of coral cozy mood making, I also made this, which is not finished. I still want to pencil and like finish it off a little bit, but this is where I kind of stopped painting yesterday, and it was so quick. Honestly, it was like 20 minutes maybe, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so quick. I clearly was in a big rush. I actually do really well when I'm in a really good mood. It's just like boom boom boom, done, right? Same thing with this. I don't think it took as long as it looks like, but yeah, and I love it because I still want to do more about stones and like penciling and whatever, but it's also not sort of unnatural, and I wanted to show it. There's something unnatural in it, but also still, I don't know what, I like that sort of unsettled, cozy feeling that it gives you. A kind of sense of adventure in the cozy or something, like, because it's not like, again, the third one, which is also not finished, because how I paint usually, and sorry to say, how I paint usually is pencils, paint, everything goes very quickly on it. Basically, it probably doesn't get chance to dry well, and then I might pencil more on top, and then I do it digitally additionally, like line art or something. So I definitely want to do more additional work on this, which basically is a sad one. I sort of started writing, thinking of writing a story, but I don't think, since my ideas don't really consolidate for very long, and given I'm writing a lot of things already, this was about sort of beginning sentences where, like, you know, you're told to sort of stop, make wishes, and start dream about realistic things. And again, this is that of wishes where people drop pennies and stuff like that. But it was like to be a sense of an adventure, as actually that well becomes an entry to some sort of like spirit world or like magical world. Again, big Ghibli vibes in that sense, because you go on to, there is a thin line between realistic and non-realistic, and suddenly things shift into this magical world. Next thing is book review. These are technically spanned from September. I wrote September, November, but clearly we're in December now. I was in a big reading slump, so actually it's not as many books as it sounds. I do want to mention this book because I haven't read this one and decided to abandon it. The stories Grandma Forgot. It's a middle grade. I abandoned it because I didn't like the language, because I think, first of all, it's written in poetry, and there are some middle grades and good ones that are written in poetry, but I think especially if you choose to write in poetry, every word has to be extra polished, and I didn't have that sense of this book, even though it was supposedly a cozy sort of theme and about, you know, sort of memory problems, dementia, but it really bogged me down in the first pages, and I dropped it down quickly, which I usually rarely do. But it really was all about me, because I used to write poetry. I think it was all about me, and some people might still want to try it. Spell Shop. Everyone was reading a Spell Shop, and I think I kind of talked about it, sorry, the dust already gathered on it. So it's about a girl called Keela who basically lost her original job. I believe it was fire or flooding. I might be very forgetful because time has passed. But basically she relocates and then sort of starts to open this not quite legal spell shop. I would say cozy fantasies, and basically why not a lot be happening, but there is a lot of descriptions that leave you in that cozy area. I go to them for the vibes, and this one is really cozy, like jams and everything, tea and jams, you know, that sort of feel to it. How to become Dark Lord or Die Trying. It's really gamified. Basically, a lot of people especially left annotations that it's hilarious and funny because it's sort of like almost like jaded character. It's like who keeps dying as a hero, and then it's like, oh, time to flip the script and become, you know, a Dark Lord because I'm dying from this Dark Lord all the time. But it wasn't landing with me because I think it was the jaded character, tired of dying. So there's a lot of tiredness going on, a cynical sort of character. So it wasn't for me, but some people really enjoyed this book. But there is a new genre called a healing fiction. I think I mentioned that in the last vlog because this is what I'm reading most or less likely recently, because it's something that people tend to read on the phone, so it's very short, it's novella based, and it's all translated, most popular in Korea, but also there are some Japanese. I'm gonna start with Magical Girl Retires, which is I believe a Korean one, but basically it has a wonderful picture panels, and that was so wonderful. You know, did I not grow up and I'm still an adult and I still see where my pictures are in my book, right? That's literally what it feels like, but look how gorgeous it is. Reminds me of Nana a little bit, like Aizawa Ai or something like that, comic artist. That sort of art style, which is really beautiful. But basically, it's about the girl who finds in, I think, her like beginning of 30s or something like that, or 29s, that she is like a magical girl and she still has her debts and credit card problems and whatnot. So it's like also very tired. You can feel the same team going through these novels. But basically, yeah, for a reason she sort of retires from it really. But also it's about finding yourself quite later, really, I would say, rather than, you know, that we expect in the teenage years. But it didn't have that lasting effect on me. In all, I probably enjoyed this more than How to Become Dark Lord. But that's the visual aspects of it. Obviously, Before Coffee Gets Cold, I read these, I think, all together as a month pick. I don't remember, it was November, I believe. Before Coffee Gets Cold, Before We Forget Kindness is like the sequel. I actually thought there's only 4 of them, and ta-da, there's the 5th. Anyway, it was my least favorite. I believe this was the one that is really closely to the couples. I think it was really like around Valentine's Day, couples and all of that sort of thing. It was not as sad or heartbreaking. Kind of starting to get like dissociated from those novels, because obviously some of the characters can be repeating and it's harder for me to follow as it keeps going on, really. Healing fiction, gone really big past years. Japanese one, has typical picture with a cat, which I don't even think there was a real cat in the story. Either way, is the genre. Right, I ran out of card space, so I was talking about these novels, right? Basically what I want to say is healing fiction and novellas, but I like to call them concept stories, because we basically have either character-driven stories or plot-driven stories in the bigger novels, but in the shorter genres such as short stories or novellas, I think it's all like concept driven, or that like big idea or big shock thing at the end, let's say. So in these sort of stories, obviously we have time traveling. Before Coffee Gets Cold series is about time traveling in this specific cafe where you have a limit of traveling to a certain moment of your life and stay there only for a short moment before your coffee gets cold. The Restaurant of Lost Recipes is about the restaurant where we don't really travel in time in any sense, but we try to recreate the dish of a special memory or special moment. Memories are really big in these stories as well. It's always either as fantastic element like time traveling, like science fiction, but it's all about memories and the moment, really. So that's that. And then the Lantern of Lost Memories is about taking photography to sort of travel in the moment. You know how in the modern time they recreate all photography with so this is basically based on that, and you travel in the moment of time, revisit the moment of time. I read a lot of graphic novels, and some of them I don't have anymore. There was some numbers of Bad Girl. I read Zelda, sort of retelling. I wasn't, necessarily too impressed with those, but with something when I'm doing reading slump and I want to just continue reading despite being in a slump. In the same category, also read some of the Adventure Time comics because my partner got me a bundle. I also read some of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina type of comics, so basically Archie's comics, Archie's universe, I would say. So there was obviously some other ones that are not directly in Sabrina's story, but they're all horror-ish in a sense. So these are like just very broad strokes. I also read something called Garbage Night. I didn't vibe with it. It's like post-apocalyptic animals. I already gave it away. I wasn't vibing with it. I also read this Rune, which is like an adventure type of graphic novel. I really enjoyed the art style, especially. It's really cute and bright colors. It's generic. It felt sort of generic. It's hard for me to retell now, but one of the memorable things that the language in this world somehow relies on the sign language, and the author did some real sign language with like adapted sign language because it's hard to tell in the comic book. So I thought that was a nice touch for it. Then obviously I read volume 3 of A Space Boy, which wasn't as great of a volume, but this one specifically is about a girl who got frozen in a capsule because her family got like deported from certain job, so in this planet colony, so we all get transported back to Earth, but basically because of a time frame to go back, we get frozen, and she's now back into this futuristic world, modern world that she's not adjusted to, starting a new life really. That's really sort of a story that goes it. I didn't get into the third volume as much as the other ones. I don't know if it's because my reading slump, but I didn't think like a lot happened in this one. So I don't know if I'm gonna continue or drop it. Then I also did Lore Olympus, which is volume 7. I think I'm up to date now. This is something very close to my heart generally. Every volume is like, there are scenes or stories that are definitely like dear to me in a sense. I love it. Love it. I'm gonna definitely continue with that one. Currently I'm reading Starling House, which is about basically cursed house. It's very like, you know how these romantasy novels are getting big, and especially with like a fairy element. This feels like it's that genre. It's about the girl who starts working for the person in the house, which is known and rumored to be cursed. And clearly, I'm still reading it, so I don't know how it's gonna go, but clearly there is some danger looming onto it. There are people interested in buying it and whatnot. I haven't finished it, but I think I mentioned because I want to start with a clean slate onto the next year. In a similar genre was Studying Drowning, which I really enjoyed. I love how it was in fairy light again, in this house that continuously floods, and this architecture student is involved in the project on sort of like rebuilding this house, but basically it's constantly floods, and there's again mythology around it, and that the entire environment is eerie, and there's another student helping her out in this project, and there's romantic interest between them, but there's also some sort of promise with like a fairy king, and it goes really creepy and almost murderous vibes, but it's so gothic, and so like I think Starling House is also very gothic, so I think it's definitely in the same category for me, and I'm enjoying that genre as well. I think out of all the books, including the healing fiction and cozy books, I'm mostly now into what really gets me going in these fantasy, fairy, romantasy stories, sadly. Guys, I'm having like the worst filming session. My battery died. Either way, I had time to find out the other little books that I haven't prepared really for this wrap-up, but we have read. So there's Akane Banashi, about Rokugo, like theater-like storytelling, and a girl wants to pass the storytelling exam, yes. But she I think she had a dad. She had a dad who was a storyteller. So it's just a volume 1. It's not bad. I could continue it, but do I want to continue it is kind of in the middle for me. Then The Cat from Our World or something like that. I read a couple of volumes of that. It's about the witch who kind of like summoned something, but it ended up being this gigantic cat that is not really that useful. But it's very cute. I read My Video Game Made My Homework. It's about these kids who basically their homework was kind of a video game, was kind of like a device or something to go into this dimension, and is self-destructed at the end, really. So I don't know if it's a correct name. My point is really video game like. There is entire like group of friends, but I again didn't quite vibe with it. I didn't like the art style. Out back to the cozy books, and I read TJ Klune Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and I loved how it opened with the song. I didn't tie it up, but it opens up with the La Mer song. So yeah, it was very sweet. It is about Arthur Parnassus, more or less based. So if you read the first book, which is House on the Cerulean Sea, it's about the house of like orphanage of children who have like special powers or are very special, and that's why shunned by society. This is a continuation. It's more or less follows really Arthur Parnassus, who is this patron of his orphanage or like a director of his orphanage. And there is I forgot his name, Linus Baker, who basically was from like very important agency or something, agency that controls magical youth or something like that. But basically he was part of a corporate who come to assess the school, and that was the first book. And the second book is about Arthur needing to do some sort of statement, and clearly we feel like there is some danger to his, you know, orphans, really. Very cozy, similar vibes, very, you know, very children based as well. You can always give that viewpoint of children that is very wondering, asking questions when no adult would ask, and I really like that voice, and it really sings nicely and cozy for me, really. It's definitely was one of the better books for me in this wrap up, but I still was in a big slump. So that says something, right? One of them is Healing Season of Pottery I'm currently reading, which is another translation cozy healing fiction, but this one in pottery based. But I also read Marigold, A Mind Laundry. I might not say a lot about pottery one because I am only 30% in, so but I just want to mention, so far it's not sinking in, but I'm in really big slump and difficulty to focus on my books. The second one, Marigold Mind Laundry, basically about laundry, but able to kind of erase your, like not erase your memories, but erase like guilt or whatever, like whatever you don't want on your mind. It can give you like a clean slate. It was really based on that idea, not as strongly fixed on ideas. It gone through like vignettes, because these books tend to go through vignettes, so it was harder to track along, but that's the main sort of story around it. It wasn't my favorite. I also reread Legends and Lattes, and some of the details sunk in that I didn't notice the first time, so you know, I was all about this cozy time, really, as you can see. So one of the books that I'm reading currently, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna bring it back because I'm just taking my really sweet slow time with it, is Night Train to the Stars by Kenji Miyazawa. Kenji Miyazawa is a Japanese author, more like a classic, and Japanese do like anime and other stories like really include his influence in, and you can see a lot of references, especially to the Night Train to the Stars. I was reading this, and during when I had fever and when I was sick, which is just recently, and I actually managed to go quite far in the book, like 80 pages or something. I'm only at 50 now. 80 pages, but I couldn't remember anything, so I had to restart from the beginning. It's not like it's something to necessarily remember, but I want to take my sweet time with it, so I understand whenever I see the references that it's referencing to this author. Famous Story is the first one, I think, in this. The Train to the Stars is the first story, so that's why I knew I didn't quite catch it when I read the first time, feverish, so I basically restarted. I'm back to only 50 pages, but I'm trying to re-soak it in, really. Finally got through. It was very bumpy because first of all my card ran out of space, second of all my battery. So this has ended up being really bumpy film for me. I'm happy that you stayed along and I hope you find books that you want to try out, and do let me know if you like any of those. But here it is. We done with with a vlog today, and I hope to see you next time. It might be after Christmas, we'll see, because lots and lots happening. So see you sometime soon. Bye.